Hello and welcome to Sustainability Matters. I'm Agatha Afemike, your host. On this show, we delve into latest developments and innovative solutions in sustainability. Each episode will bring you expert insights, impactful stories, and practical tips to help you make a difference. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Hello everyone, good day and welcome to another episode on Sustainability Matters. Today we have a very, very important guest with us in the person of John Abubakar. Mr. John has over 15 years of experience in sustainability and leadership. He's the CSO at Villanova University, where he leads the Sustainability Leadership Council and coordinates all sustainability initiatives across the 6 colleges of the university. His areas of expertise include sustainability management, the built environment, ecology, and human flourishing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. John.
My pleasure, Agatha.
How you doing? Fun fact, we have attempted to record this session twice now, but there's been one thing or the other. Thank you so much for being flexible with us, Mr. John.
My pleasure. I'm happy to share my knowledge and ideas.
Awesome. I see that. It's also 7 a.m. at Pennsylvania. It's very early in the morning for you. So thank you for disrupting your morning routine for us. Awesome. So we can get into the conversation for today, which is around sustainability leadership in complex institutions. So I would like you to, as a start, to give us a brief overview of how you got into the sustainability space. What was that spark for you? How you became interested in sustainability?
Right. Okay. Thank you again. Let's say 5 or 10 years ago, I got interested in the SDGs, looking at the different challenges from my program at the University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom. So I did international development and I got interested in, the different components of the SDG, resource management, and clearly sustainability is still an evolving area. So in reading about it, I felt, how can I be most impactful in terms of trying to translate the different ideas that were taught in class? And from my reading and research, I discovered that, this evolving area, where you have a director or manager or even analyst or chief sustainability officer seems appealing to me. Well, I didn't set out to maybe just become the chief sustainability officer, but then I went on to look at what are the ingredients that may be required to work effectively. I then realized that it's a very interdisciplinary or possibly transdisciplinary field where you combine business, climate, psychology. The list is endless. So I then decided to, after my the master's in international development with a focus in environment, climate, and politics, I then decided to do a certificate program at the University of Cambridge. So I think it's the circular economy and sustainability strategies. And then I went on also to add a second one, to the leadership one, with leading sustainable organizations or corporations at the University of Oxford. Short certificate programs, but I think they help in preparing me for the role I'm playing now.
Awesome. That sounds very, very interesting. But before your master's degree, what was your first degree in?
Okay, good question. So I studied different things. I don't want to say maybe out of confusion or interest, So my first degree is actually in philosophy. And then I later did theology, and then environmental theology. And then I moved into the business field, did an MBA in human resource management. And then a doctorate in business, global business and leadership. So a combination of different things. Looking back now, I think that is very helpful. Like I said at the beginning, the sustainability field is clearly in need of different skills, different knowledge. So the more knowledgeable you are in human psychology, in the circular economy, business, government and policy, leadership, the list is endless. Even basic, even our values, where religion can come in. So they all come together in helping me.
Yeah, I can imagine that actually. Like you said, sustainability is a multidisciplinary field, and you need to have a basic understanding of almost everything, really. So, what does a typical day look like for you as CSO of Villanova? What does it look like for you? For example, it's 7 a.m.
Right.
I know you're about to be off to work if you're not already at work. So, what does like a day like today, what's it going to look like for you?
Okay, so basically, data is very important. Firstly, I have a number of meetings that's almost always there. If not, maybe I'm in too many meetings, I say often. So you meet with different people, maybe dining services, for instance. We just employed a new director of dining services, and then you have the recycling manager. So today I'm going to have 3 meetings, one with the director of dining services, and then later on at 1 p.m., I will have maybe a lunch meeting with the director of the strategic initiative. So we have a team setting up an institute, a sustainability institute. So I'll be meeting with that group also later on. And then with a group called Eco-Philly. They are also more in the religious dimension of sustainability. So basically, I have a lot of meetings. Normally, it's always there. And then I
Yeah.
have 3 staff that report directly to me. So we also meet frequently. So they come in. One has to do with data, then the other one has to do with maybe practical activities on campus around student life. So we have some initiatives on campus. So they come in maybe to brief me on the different things they've done, since we had labor holiday yesterday. So today is almost, I had the first working day, if you may, of the week. So on the first day, normally they come in to brief me on the different things and the initiatives they have, and maybe even invitation to speak around campus based on the different requests that we have.
Awesome. That sounds like a very, very interesting day you have there. So the people reporting under you, just so we understand the structure and how it works, because I know there are so many people going to be listening to this asking, how can I fit into the whole sustainability ecosystem? The people working for you, you said one is in data. That person manages data for you, I'm sure, around campus activities. The other person manages.
So good. Okay. We have a communications person different from
Mhm.
this, because communication is key. You need to let people know what you are doing and also get their buy-in. Okay, and so we have Ali is her name. So she has to do directly with projects around students, because we have this program called the Campus as a Living Lab. So you have 6 initiatives also on campus, maybe Race to Zero Waste, Nourish to Flourish. The list, we have about 6 of them. So she takes care of that. It has to do with different initiatives on campus, mostly student-led. Okay, so the practical things. So then once they do those things, Aldo, the assistant director, tries to get all the needed data from teaching, from the different initiatives they do. Then the communications person, then once they meet with me, then things maybe we endorse and then forward it to the communications person to help us disseminate it across students, faculty, staff, and maybe alumni.
Interesting, interesting. Okay, so I want to ask around your career at Villanova University. Did you start off as CSO, or you grew up the ladder?
Okay, so I happen to be an adjunct professor here on campus, and then also when I mean part of the Sustainability Leadership Council, not the chair, but part of it, based on the different things I was doing. I was helping more in designing courses. So I designed, for instance, because Villanova is a faith-based university, religion is taken by every student compulsorily on campus. So 2 theology courses. So I decided to design one called the Bible and Sustainability, and it's, in fact, there's a book I wrote which came out. It's online on Amazon, The Bible and Sustainability. It came out, I think, August 1st, 2024. So we have that course being taught on campus as one of the courses. And then I'm designing sustainability management and sustainability leadership courses too, that hopefully it will become part of our master's and maybe hopefully doctoral program. So that was my main work on campus, teaching, and then maybe designing courses. Then they then had the funding to create the Office for Sustainability. They had a team, helping, to lead the presidential initiative, we say. So I happened to be around, and then I was told that, well, they had created that, and I was invited maybe to put in my application to make a presentation to the cabinet. The cabinet is the leadership where you have the president of the university and his council. So once I made the presentation, then they felt comfortable that, okay, maybe I will be a good fit. And then I was appointed, and then, so clearly I'm actually helping to establish the office. It's been in existence barely a year now.
Oh wow, that's an interesting lineup of work you do there, Mr. John. Which ties to my next question, really. Can you speak to us about the Sustainability Leadership Council? What is it? What's the function in the campus, and how does it tie to your role as CSO?
Right. Okay, thank you, Agatha. So the structure we have here on campus, we try to emphasize sustainability as about being and not doing. We are heavy on the social dimension of sustainability. In fact, there's a course we've created around social sustainability, because when you look at the SDGs, oftentimes when we speak about climate or sustainability, the environment seems to take all our attention, forgetting that we are talking about poverty, we are talking about real people, work-life balance. So we decided here in Villanova to have a high-level council that has vice presidents, deans, who are the top leaders on campus. So it's a high-level committee with maybe about 30 members, mainly leaders across the 6 colleges. Yeah, so I deem it a great privilege that I'm chairing that. So the whole idea is to get the buy-in, any decision. So normally at the beginning of the semester, like we just began the semester,